What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Combat Corporation, your source for combat sports. I'm your host, Al the Postmaster Morrow, and today I have a gear review on the ONX Sports X Factor training gloves. Alright, so before I get into the gloves themselves, the design and how they look, I want to talk about who actually made the gloves so you can understand that these gloves aren't your average pair. Basically, for those of you that don't know his name, Trevor Wittman is one of the most scientific minds in combat sports today. A lot of people know him for boxing training and MMA training, but a lot of people also know him now for his coverage on ESPN when he commentates on the UFC. He'll go in between rounds and basically do what Harold Letterman did for HBO. So they'll ask him, hey, Trevor, who do you think won this round? And he'll say, well, I think this guy won this round because of that. I think his coach should tell him this. I don't think his coach should have told him that. And he just has such a great mind for something like that. And on top of it, he made ONX Sports. He basically took all of his scientific minds when it came to coaching and put it to his sewing ability and his knowledge of equipment. Now, just a couple names that he trains. A lot of people know him for training Rose Namajunas, who's the UFC strawweight champion currently, and of course Justin Gaethje, who is the UFC number 5 lightweight contender right now, and was also the WSOF world champion at one point. So let's talk about the gloves themselves. First off, when you get these from the website, you can expect to get a couple things with them, starting out with this really cool bag that comes. It has an ONX logo on the bag. It's a very tough canvas bag. It's really, really durable. I'm pulling as tight as I can, no ripping at all. It has an ONX Authentic logo. And for no extra charge, which I'll show you on the gloves in a bit, you can even customize it to say anything you want. So I put Combat Corp, and I'll show you here actually now. You can see on the front of the gloves, Combat Corp. So I'll get to that later, but for no extra charge, you can add whatever you want to the front of the gloves. You're also going to get a couple pieces of paper. One I'll break down later, but it says heat molding instructions because these gloves do have heat moldable foam. And then we have an inspection report. So it basically says the materials, stitching, strapping / laces, hand position, thumb position, serial number, packing, date completed, and inspected by, all on one piece of cardboard here. So, you know, if you've ever had a pair of gloves that has an inspection report other than these, I'd be amazed. They also come with a silver ONX Sports sticker, which I put on my computer, which I'll try and show in the video somewhere. But with that said, let's get into the gloves themselves now that I've talked about who created them. I've talked about what comes in the mail. Starting out with the overall look, it's kind of basic. When we talk about a glove and you talk about the most basic color, it's probably black, but it's also the best color for a lot of gloves for the reason of dirt just doesn't resonate on black all that well. You know, if you had white or red, which are other really cool glove colors that a lot of people use, the dirt tends to show. It also shows that the creases are very present. It also shows all the blood, you can tell where all the sweat marks were, and the bleach that you use to clean the gloves tends to shrivel it. But you won't get that with black, and that's exactly what you get with these gloves. It's a very dark obsidian black color, and that's all throughout the glove, really except for a couple of the little logos around here. So sticking to the back of the glove, we have an ONX Sports stamp right above the knuckles, and it's a little raised, but it doesn't bother anyone in sparring. It has a big X, which might explain why it's called the X Factor training gloves. And once again, for a big and blatant reason, it's that big X on the back. But there's a deeper meaning behind that, and I'll get to that into the design of the glove. We go to the first wrist strap. We have another ONX stamp, and it says ONX Authentic. Just like on the bag, it says the same thing, which I'll show one more time. So you get that on both of the gloves' top wrist strap. On the bottom wrist strap, it says ONX as well. Right here, it's in black. And it will tell you with a 16-ounce stamp, and that's what I got. And I believe when I opened this, I already registered mine, but it even has a serial number too. I don't mind showing it just because mine's already registered, and it's not like someone's just going to steal my gloves. So, and then the rest of the appearance, it has a couple ventilation holes in the thumb and in the palm, and it has gold and black stitching all throughout. So we got black on the back and gold on the palm. So now let's talk about the scientific parts to the gloves. Now, I mentioned earlier that they're heat moldable, and I'm actually going to get to that before I do the outer shell and everything, just because of how cool it is. Now, like I said, it comes with this little instructions, and I'll show you how to do it as well in this video, but basically these gloves boast that they're the only wrapless glove on the market, and it means just exactly what I just said. You don't need to wear hand wraps when you wear these gloves, and honestly, I've worn hand wraps twice with these gloves, and I prefer them without the wraps. Basically, the mold inside, it doesn't necessarily mold to your hand, but it skips the break-in process, and it does actually have a couple indents where my knuckles are on the inside of the glove, which is extremely hard to tell on a video. But when I put my hand in, my thumb, I can feel where my knuckles are indented, and that's awesome. And basically what that does is it anatomically shapes as I punch, and it skips the break-in process entirely. So I don't need to spend hours and hours and hours just beating on a bag to get these broken in. It takes a couple minutes to break them in without even using them, really. The other cool part about these gloves and why they're anatomically correct, and the lace-up version is the same. I got the Velcro just because I got these more for MMA training. But when I put my hand in, you'll notice I'll secure the bottom strap first. So the wrist support's great, but here's the cool thing. Watch my thumb. If I pull this, it pulls my thumb right in. Now I'm going to let go, and it lets my thumb go. So when I pull this, that's the X Factor design coming in. So it's keeping my thumb not tight, but in a very good natural punching position, and it also keeps my wrist at a natural curve as well. So like a lot of other gloves out there that are starting to use this natural curve, it dips my wrist down so I don't have to curve my wrist like with other gloves that don't do that for you. So here, my knuckles are entirely lined up for a complete natural punch. Now that I have the glove on, I'll even talk about what it feels like. Since this X is here, and the reason why it's called the X Factor, at least for me, is because when you wrap your hands, you always get that X going on the back of your hand to compress the veins, the arteries, the blood vessels, your bones, everything inside of your hand that could burst or explode, basically. And that X is what compresses it a lot. Now, I feel that compression on the back with this, and on the inside it feels like I'm wearing hand wraps, and it's honestly really, really a great feeling. When I hit, I feel a complete absorption of everything. I feel nothing but comfort on the inside. The interior lining is great. I won't lie, I don't know what the interior lining is entirely made of. I know Trevor Wittman said it's a lot of stuff that snowboarders use because it's very moisture wicking and it's very absorbent. And I tell you what, I've used these for a little over 6 months now, and they don't smell bad. That was my key fear, but I'll get to that later on. They don't smell bad. That's always good. Now we'll move on to the outer shell. The outer shell is made out of microfiber composite. Now, like microfiber leather, it's very cool because it's not going to rip, it's not going to wrinkle, it's not going to be damaged by a lot of stuff that we come in contact with in combat sports that's like moisture. So blood, sweat, and tears might get on this, and it's not going to shrivel this because microfiber composite really doesn't bother the material. And if you can recognize it a little bit, microfiber composite, if you see the little bumps and stuff all throughout the glove, is kind of like the same material that they use with basketballs. And you know, basketballs are very bouncy, they're very absorbent. You can really give them a good pounding, and that's kind of what the outside is made of here. A lot of people say, well, basketballs are hard. Well, it has a bladder on the inside, that's why. These don't. This is the material that it's made of. It's very, very good. It's a good feel. It doesn't twist on my face at all like regular leather would. It's very soft to the touch. The molding on the inside, the foams are not only heat moldable, but they're high technology foams. So when I push in, you'll notice that it doesn't really give a whole lot of resistance or anything. And what that means is, Trevor Wittman actually did a test. He took these metal balls and dropped them on the foam. When he dropped it on the foam, it stopped right on the ground instead of it bouncing. So the moment you hit, all the impact is absorbed and my hand is completely good, and it also forces me to retract. So it teaches me good technique. So I don't need to have a specific heavy bag, specific mitts. It's just going to bounce. It's just going to hit dead and bring it back, and that's awesome. So that's a really unique thing that a lot of gloves don't use. It's high technology foams is what he calls it. He doesn't use things like EVA or high density foams. It's a lot of high technology foams is what he says, and it's very good for knuckle protection. The hand compartment feels great. Once you get the heat mold going, it feels even better. and I'll show you how to do that as well. But really everything about these gloves are awesome. Between the look being somewhat basic, I mean they do look kind of futuristic at the same time with the bumpy type look to it, even though it's very smooth. And with the big X on the back, that's just a really cool feature to me. So without further ado, let's get to the training footage, and I'm going to show you how to actually mold these to your hand in case you think about buying them, and then I'll give you my final take on these gloves. Although it comes with instructions, I'm going to walk you through step by step on how to heat mold these gloves before your first use, and I recommend them. But I want to start off by reading the very top of this, and it says, ONX gloves are designed to become an extension of you. Creating a custom fit specifically to your hands is the key to comfort, protection, and performance, which is entirely true. And it tells you to heat these for 4 minutes, and this is exactly how you heat them. Take a hair dryer, and it doesn't need to be a special hair dryer. Put it to medium, low or medium for 4 minutes, and what you're going to do is open up the glove. So if you have laces or wrist straps, that's all. And you want to put it about 6 inches into the glove, about right here. Okay, you don't want to shove it. You don't want to shove it all the way in, because that's going to ruin the foam. You just want it heated enough. And I'll give you a dummy course on this. So now you strap both of these around nice and tight like it would simulate your wrist. And I'm going to put it on low for a minute. So all you do is you set this right here for 4 minutes. Do not leave the gloves alone. Take it off like this. And I can already feel that it's warm on the inside a little bit. Do not put it on the high setting. You will scorch your hand, and it warns you here. So when it says wear, it says inside the glove should be warm, not scorching after 4 minutes of heating with a hair dryer. And basically what you're going to do, you're not going to strike anything. You're not going to hit a bag. You're not going to hit your hand like this. All you're going to do is just kind of move like you're in the cracking knuckle motion. And this, you're going to squeeze your hand in your fist. And it even says, do not punch bags, tables, yourself, or others while molding. It says, while wearing the gloves with molded hand, open and close fingertips and thumb. Make a fist, push gloved hand around the opposite palm, so just like this. And it says knuckle cracking motion right here. And externally smooth the glove with the bare hand to follow the curvature of the glove and thumb. And do this for 10 minutes, it says, and it should be completely molded to your hand. And it's very simple to do. So if you have 20 minutes out of your day when you get these gloves, I recommend you take the 20 minutes to do this. It's a very simple step, and it's going to give you the best performance with these gloves.
And all I can say is, like I said, I've been using these for about 6 months, but even right out of the box, man, I don't know if I've ever had a more comfortable feel when it comes to punching stuff. It's just the heat molding, I believe. Not only does it skip the break-in process, but it just feels like a puncher's glove to me. But at this, I can't describe it. It feels like I'm hitting clouds with a puncher's feel to it. They're very soft to the touch, but I know I'm getting feedback, and it's very nice on my shoulders. It's nice on my arms. I get no shock, really. Don't get a weird feeling channeling up my arms. Everything about these gloves are just great on the bag. I have zero complaints for regular use, and they're so light too. And even without the wraps, I'm not using hand wraps when it comes to using these gloves. They are very, very nice on my hands. I have zero complaints. All right, so I'm hitting really hard on the bag now just to show you that I can get a nice, good feedback. And I have no problem with my wrist, no problem with my arms, my elbows, my shoulders, my hands. Everything is just nice and protected and nice and comfortable, and they're nice and light too, so I can let my hands go nice and quick. I have zero complaints with these gloves. So here I am sparring with Dom a little bit, just kind of having some fun with the X Factor training gloves, just kind of to give you an idea. Dom says that the gloves have a unique feel in that they don't feel like they're getting hit by a cinder block, but he said he said he keeps you on your toes, like you're getting hit. We're just kind of having some fun right now, but in general, when I spar, I really get good feedback from punching. That's the one thing I notice a lot with these, and they're very sleek types of gloves. So even with like a Philly shell type of defense, punches do tend to slip through. They're not puffy. They're very slim. They're good, really to keep you on your toes. So I notice I'm more of an offensive minded guy with these gloves, just because even my defense gets cracked every now and again with these gloves compared to a puffy glove like a Winning or a Reyes or something like that. These are really good for keeping you on your toes, I find. So here I'm going to give you a sparring view of the gloves, and I show you the Combat Corp that you can see. They're very basic gloves, so really all you're seeing is just black gloves coming at you from a sparring view. Everything about the gloves, from a look, is eye-catching, kind of. I think it's more or less the gold lettering that does it, but realistically, I like the basic look, and you just see black coming at you at the end of a sparring match.
All right, so now that I've talked about the gloves, you've seen the training footage, and now that you know how to mold these gloves, I want to talk about my very last thoughts on these. This is the first review on the channel where I've had something for over a month at most, and I've had these for a little over half a year. I bought these back in the beginning of November, and all I can say is I rarely ever give gloves a score of this, but I give them a 10 out of 10. From wrist support, knuckle protection, and ultimate comfort, it's very hard to beat gloves like these. I think for a higher end pair of gloves that aren't necessarily known by the general public, these are probably my number one. A lot of people will know gloves such as Winning, Everlast, Reyes, Grant, other companies like that. But honestly, I'm surprised a lot of people aren't using these. And I think it's just because a lot of people think, especially in the boxing world, because I was even skeptical, well, you don't need to wear hand wraps. What's that all about? And I mean that. You don't need to wear hand wraps. And what's nuts is that even without the hand wraps, they don't smell. That was my biggest concern, and that was my coach's concern. He's like, man, those are going to smell bad, because have you ever wore shoes without socks? You notice that the shoes will smell bad like that. Whereas these, they still smell like they did when I just got them out of the box. The heat molding is just amazing. I can't tell you, every time I make contact with a bag or with mitts, it just feels like I'm punching right into the perfect mold every single time. Every time I hit, it just gives my arm something to feed off. It gives me the real perfect punch. If I've ever had one, that's it. I use these a lot for MMA more than I do boxing, just because I got the Velcro version, but you can use these fine in boxing sparring. I know I have, although my coach is old school and still thinks you're still hitting people without hand wraps. That's not fair. But there's so much knuckle protection with the high technology foams on the inside, I have nothing to complain about. The wrist support is just phenomenal. I mean, the natural hand position that it gives you, not only if I strap this here, this alone, it's not coming off my wrist whatsoever. I'm pulling as tight as I can. And what's even cooler is that my thumb, I don't need to worry about opening or closing my fist too tight, because it does it for me. If I pull, once again, this strap in, now my thumb is in a perfect position. My knuckles are in a great place, and another reason why I like these for MMA is look how wide I can make this glove. Not only can I grab really well for Muay Thai clinch and grappling exchanges, but it's also good in boxing because I can really parry. So if I ever do drill, it's almost like a mitt, and it's so padded on the inside with this bar, with this grip bar and the stitching and everything. It's gonna hold up. It's just like a mitt on the inside as well, and there's not an excess of padding on the palm, so it's a really, really good feel. So I can open really wide, and it's nice and comfortable. The foam's very soft. My sparring partners like these gloves. They said it's not necessarily like a pillow. They feel punches for sure, but they also said they don't feel like they're getting hit by a cinder block or by a brand new pair of gloves. When you get gloves out of the box, sometimes I don't spar with them until I've done 15 to 20 rounds on the bag, because they're so stiff. But I got these out, heat molded these, and I was ready to go immediately. The foam is so soft compared to other gloves. And the thing, once again, since I've had these for over 6 months, you can tell the microfiber composite, there's no creasing, there's no wear, there's no shriveling or anything. This is the same way it looked when I got them out of the box, and I use these gloves a lot when it comes to training. They're one of my favorite gloves. And of course, for no extra charge, you can put your name on it, and I want to say you can even get your logo put on the thumb, but I don't know if that option was there when I got them. I know a lot of people are using these. Rose Namajunas uses these, Justin Gaethje uses these, TJ Dillashaw use these. They're endorsed by people like Dwayne Ludwig, Henry Hooft, and a bunch of other coaches. I want to say Kamaru Usman even tried these out a little bit. And people down at the HK Kickboxing, which is awesome. These gloves in general are great. I give them a 10 out of 10. The price point might be one thing that scares people, but honestly, I prefer these over a lot of other gloves with the price point, and that price point is $300. But Trevor Wittman knows that not every single person can spend $300 on the dime like that. So what I did is I did a $30 a month for 1 year payment plan, and that's something that a lot of people have. Well, no one's ever done that as far as a glove goes, unless you go on eBay and do like the PayPal plan. But I can say that for $30 a month, I am completely okay with paying that for these gloves, because for $300 gloves, these should be more mainstream, in my opinion. I don't think a lot of people are using these yet just because they haven't blown up as much, but you do see a lot more people using them. I think these gloves are great. I recommend them for anybody in any sport at any level. I think if you're starting out and you want to do it for a very long time, get these gloves. I think if you're a pro and you want gloves that are going to last you a very long time for 3+ years without a single problem, get these gloves. If you're a mid-level guy that's doing it 2 to 3 days a week, but you still want gloves that are going to last you for a long time, get these gloves. I'll post a link in the description below where you can get them. Like I said, the payment plan, you can't beat it. And even for $300 for a pro, that's really not a bad investment for these gloves at all. And just because it says they're wrapless gloves, you can still wear hand wraps in them, and they're still just as comfy. But I like them without the hand wraps, especially if I'm in a rush or taking my gloves on and off for MMA and stuff. So without further ado, folks, thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed my review on the ONX Sports X Factor training gloves. If you have any questions on these gloves, please like, comment, or subscribe below. Let me know what you think, and I'd be happy to review or go in more depth with these gloves, because there's a lot to go into. So thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll see you on the next episode.